So now then we will add the protected routes. So usually when you have an application, you usually have some kind of user login or something, and you only want to display certain pages if the user has logged in, and otherwise you don't want to display them. So say that we want this main view to be protected. Then we go to routes here, and we would like to have another route which we call like protected route. So if we go this view, we should go to the login page if the user isn't logged in. So to do this, we will actually add a new route here. So we go to routes here, and we add a new file called protected route.tsx. And we will add some imports here, and we will flip across protected route React.component. And here we of course would like to have the app props we created previously, right? So we will actually just import that as well. Import app props from command props, right? So props. And we first need a constructor props and call super. Okay, and then we just copy the normal functionalities here. Here we go. So we have a render function, and that should actually return something. It's not very nice. So we actually, if everything goes okay, we just want to return this to props. If we are logged in, just route to whatever we're writing to. But if not logged in, we would actually want to redirect something. But to know that, we need to know if we are logged in or not, right? So, oh yeah, of course, we just need to export default. So, we actually cannot continue with this until we actually know if we are logged in or not. So, to do this, we will start actually working with the MobX part and create a store for this. So, the store is kind of a class that handles the store of information and also potentially the retrieval of that information from a backend service or something else. So, we will start first by creating a new folder called stores. And then for this specific purpose, we will actually create one called session store, which will store the session parts we are doing here. And in here we will create a new file called session.ts. So I will actually copy this from and go through it instead of writing it, because this is actually not most of this is not that interesting to see me writing, but I will go through the parts anyway for you to understand what this is. So first we will have you see here that we actually are using the observable and computed parts from MobX. So here is where we actually will store our state, and here you will see that we have added a number of variables that are observable. So here a view can observe if these change or not, and change the GUI based on that. And here we have the user ID. This is your username or whatever, email. The access token, expiration date for when you have logged in, you get an access token, and it will expire at some kind of date. And we have two states, one state for login and one for logout. If we have, are we logging in, or so there are, the states are up here. So default it will be none. Then when you start logging in, it will be login ongoing, and then you will talk to a backend and do the validation and stuff, and then eventually it will be succeeded or failed, and the same with logout, right? And then we have two member variables here, access token string and expiration at string. These are, we are going to store this in the local storage in the browser. So these are just the strings in the names where we will store these. And then yeah, exactly. So process, and then we get the URL here as well. And here we will actually we would like to be able to change this URL based on okay, yeah, so yeah, this is, we can remove those because these are not used in this example. So yeah, so this is actually where we're going to observe the session data, and then these data is just actually to we retrieve the access token from local storage and the expiration date, because then we can keep them between web sessions, and also we get the username here for that one. And then we actually, here we have let's take this a little bit later on. We first go to login. This is very simple. We are actually not talking to any backend here because that would be complex for this example. So what we do here when we log in, we set the status to ongoing. We check if the password is very simple, and if it is, it succeeded. And we set some access token to something and expiration date into like 10 minutes from now. Then we store this data, and we store the expiration date, and we store the username. If it's not password, we will say that this login failed. So very simple. And logout is kind of more that's the same thing here. So we just reset everything, remove the expiration date, we set the item to empty, and we say that login succeeded. So then we have some functions we can call, and they will update these variables, and we can observe them. But we also would like to be able to maybe know, are we logged in or not? And that might be a little bit more complex. So then we can actually have this at computed. This is also a MobX thing. So this is public get. So this will actually be used as a variable, but it's when anything this depends on, like the expiration date or the access token, changes, this will be recalculated or computed. So the variable will be changed if any of the underlying entities which it uses changes. So and that's really nice, because then you can have more complex logic but still have something that you can have react on state changes on. So if what we do here is that we check if the expiration at is 0 and the access token is, or the access token is less than 1, we are not logged in. Otherwise we just validate that the expiration time hasn't expired, and because if it has, it's also false. Otherwise it's true and we are logged in. Very simple thing here. But to do that here, now we actually have our first store which we can use to actually see if we are logged in or not, which we can use then in the protected route. But that's all very nice and dandy. But how do we get them into this component then? That's kind of the next thing. And to do that, we will actually use something called Inject in MobX. So we will inject this store into the protected route in this case, and so we will actually do like this. We will import observer and inject from MobX React, and then just set these as annotations to this class, saying that we will inject something called store, and this class is actually an observer. So if any of our observable entities or computed entities change, this will be updated, so it will be able to react on that. So that's really good. Okay, so this store, where will that come from? We actually need to add it somewhere, and what we do is that we create this in the actual app in the beginning here. So what we will actually do is to we will import another thing here called provider from MobX React, and we will obviously, because here we will need to create the entities that we will inject and add them to the store. This can be done in different ways. You can actually add different names, so you can have store, session store, and user store, or different kind of stores, and injecting out different parts. I've used the pattern here where I will create one store, and in that store I will create one context, and in that context I will create all the stores, so they can be fetched in one way and have the types and everything in a good way, I think. But yeah, you can do it in different ways. But what I will do here as well then is actually to import the actual session store. So we will create a session store here, and we will actually create a session store, and we will create something where we can inject this store, because later on we will actually then need to add the context here in a provider. But to do that, we will actually add some parts into our app props here. So the first thing we will do is to create an injection context, which will be the thing that we actually will inject into other things. So we'll call this context. And here we will actually also import the thing we had before, so let's just copy that. And say that we would like this to contain user store, the session store. So yeah, sorry. Okay. Like this, right? So, exactly, and then we also need to do it. So we need to have an injection context, because this is the thing we will inject. It will be more clear when we have the number of stores, but so for now we will have this injection context. So obviously we will do like this as well. So, and then we actually need to import the injection context from common purpose. Great. So we would like then to create an injection context with our different stores. And here we obviously just want to set the session store we have. So good. And now we will have this injection context, and we will actually just wrap this in our provider, because somehow we need to provide store equals context. So let me format this. So now we will actually provide something into what the store, and it will be the injection context. So here, store is the same thing as the store here. So now we will actually inject this into the properties that will be sent here. But of course, we only have app props here, right? We would like to have something where we actually know what's coming in. So what we will do is that we will actually just create another interface here, this, and we will call it AppStores prop, and it will actually extend props, and here we actually just want to say that we have something called store, and this is an injection context. The good thing with this is now that we have this here, we can just replace this so, because now if we want to use the session store here, we will just import that here. So we would like to have a session store, and we will actually just to be able to use it in a simple way, we will say that we will add it here, a session store to our component, and we need to set it somewhere. So we say that the session store equals props dot store dot session store. So now we actually have a session store we can use, and it's injected, and we see exactly what we have, because we are using types all the way, so it's really easy to not misspell things. So, but now we have the session store. So what should we do with this then? So we actually want to know if we are logged in or not, right? So here we say if not this dot session store dot is logged in. So if we are not logged in, this is what we will see. This is the computer, so this is actually a function, but we are using it as a variable. So it's added get to it. So if we are not logged in, we would actually like to return something else, right? So what we do want to return is redirect to somewhere. To where? Okay, to slash login. We would like to go to the login page, which we haven't found yet, but we will. So now, good. So if we aren't logged in now, we are going to be redirected to a login page. And if we are logged in, we will be routed to whatever page we want it to be routed to. So good. So now we have injected our store, we are using it, and redirecting to the correct place. But of course, now we have to have some kind of login view as well. So we go to views, we add a new folder, we log in, and in that folder we create a file called login with 6. I will actually just copy this, so of course it's not that really interesting to see me write all these parts. But here again, this is a view. We are using the inject part to inject our store. And this is our observer, so we're using the AppStores we defined previously, and which we're using here to set the session and store. Here. So, so what are we doing here then? The first thing we are doing is to see that are we logged in. We should go to we should call that main, right? To the main. And so of course then we don't need to log in anymore, right? Otherwise we will see if we are actually logging in, if the login status, this is the session store we injected, if the login status is ongoing, then we will show a linear progress on the top of the page. Otherwise we will show nothing there, and then we will actually show a grid with username, password, the login part, so it's just those parts, and in the bottom we will have this login button. So good. So and if when we actually do see here submit, so here we have the form, and when the form is submitted, we will call the handle sign-in function, which is here, and then we will not do what we usually do in a button, prevent default, but we will actually call the login function in the session store with the email and password that we have defined here. The email and password we have set as observables here in the actual class itself. Of course, these are the ones that we are mapping to our fields. Yeah, this email and password. These text fields. Good. And when we actually mount this, we will fetch the user ID from session store and set this to the email here in the local, because we're using the local variables when working in the actual page itself. And of course, while we are using information from this class in the handle sign-in function, we need to bind this object to that function. Okay, so I added some styles and theme to this, so we actually need to add the theming part, which we haven't done yet, in the app file. Use the theme provider. And we will add the theme. And we will we actually don't have any theme here, so I will just get this from another project. I mean, theming, you can look at that in some other video, but this is just a normal material UI theme, so I will just drag in the theme parts here to this project, so we get the theming parts. Nice. So now we have some theming parts, and then we have a login view, which looks a little bit nicer in a way. And to get this to work nicely with using the classes, we create the style up here, and then we, when we export the actual view, we export it with the with styles wrapper here, so we get the styles into the page. And this styles is just the styles we have defined up here, so we can have styles for this specific page. Okay, so now we have a login view, which is nice, but you know, how do we route to that one? We need to add a router for it, right? So we will then go here, and we will just be lazy and copy that, and say that we need to have something go somewhere when we do the login. So here we have a login view, and that's where we want to go. If we go into the login page. So now we are at the main, and then we go to login, and here we have a login page. Nice. And we go to main again, and that works nicely, but we actually didn't want that, right? That's why we are doing all these parts. So we should then actually add the protected route. That's what we want to use, right? So we add this to routes, so we import this. Oops. Import. And we say that this main view, we actually want this to be protected, like this. So if we go back here, whoops, we're in the login page. Yeah, right, so we go to main. Nope, we are directed to the login page. But if we just in the, say, still just write the password on .com here somewhere. We don't want to store that. We go into the main page, because now we are logged in, and we are redirected to the main page as we wanted. So to accomplish that, we obviously needed to add a store, and this is where MobX start being used, which is really neat. And we will use that a little bit more when going into using stores for actually fetching data somewhere as well. So now we have a main page and we have a login page, and in the next video we will add the users list where we will retrieve data from a backend service and create a new store for that and visualize that.